Good day to you and welcome back to our series that we are doing on timely reminders from God. And my topic for today is remember things of long ago. Right? Now, my verse that I'll be giving you for today is based on Isaiah chapter 46 verse 8 to 9. And let me just read that to you. Isaiah 46 verse 8 to 9 says, "Remember this and keep it in your mind and take it to your heart. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is no one like me." What is the reminder again? God is telling us, keep this in your mind, take it to your heart, remember the former things, those of long ago. That is the NIV version that says, remember the former things of long ago. The New Living Translation says, remember what I have done in the past. The New King James Version says, remember the former things. And I like the Contemporary English Version that says, remember things that happened many years ago. A lot of us sometimes we remember only the many years ago all the bad things that happened. Okay, we don't want to remember all the good things that happened. Somehow it's like all the bad things will be stored in our memory for like 15, 20, 30 years. But all the good suddenly is forgotten. And this verse tells us, remember all the things that I did in the past. Remember things that happened many years ago. Remember all the former things. Now, why is it that God tells us this? Why is He reminding us? He is reminding us that He is a God of faithfulness. I am the God who worked then, and I am the same God who's going to work in your life now. Because our God is the God of yesterday, He's the God of today, and He's the God of forever and ever and ever. So if God did something in your life 10 years ago to show His faithfulness, to give you a breakthrough, to give you a miracle, that same God is alive in us, is present in our lives today to show the same faithfulness, to give us the same breakthrough and to give us the same miracles. It may not happen exactly the way it happened 10 years ago, but needless to say, it will happen. We just need to trust God. So sometimes when we are going through seasons in our life and we find that nothing seems to be falling into place, everything is just collapsing all around me. You know, I'm praying, but nothing seems to be happening, and we are focusing on the now. Why all these things are not happening? And when we get into that mode, what does Isaiah say? Remember now the things of long ago. Don't focus on what is not happening now. Remember the God who worked 3 years ago. Remember that miracle that happened 5 years ago. Remember that thing that happened, that breakthrough that you experienced 8 years ago. Well, that God wants to work in the same time today. He still wants to do the same kind of victories in your life. We need to hold on to all of that. Do you know David? Every time when he was a shepherd boy and he was in the field, you know, they really don't have much to do, okay? They didn't have laptops at that time that they can take all the sheep, go out to the pasture and says, okay, go on, all 100 of you go graze and none of you go, better stray away, just stay here and just eat whatever grass you want. And then he didn't have his laptop and he was opening and he was going on Google and watching YouTube videos. He didn't have all that. He didn't have his phone that he could just sit there and say, okay, all of you behave yourselves. You have 1 hour here to graze in the fields, and then he's on YouTube and doing TikTok videos and taking selfies. He didn't have all that. So what do you think these shepherds were doing in the fields? While all the sheep were grazing, this shepherds, David, he had a staff. You know, all shepherds have a staff, right? They have a staff, and what they do is they take this sharp object and they start carving on their staff. What are they carving? They're not simply carving decorative designs to make their staff look so beautiful. They carve the faithfulness of God. They would remember, David would remember like, oh, last week I was here in the field and I remember a wolf came and how God protected me from that wolf. Oh, God was so faithful to protect me. He's really my protector. He's my shield. And he starts to carve these pictures of the wolf, how the wolf came, how it nearly attacked one of my little sheep and God protected me. He starts to document that whole event in a picture form. So every time he looks at his entire stuff from top to bottom, you can turn it in every direction, you see all these pictures, and David, when he looks at these pictures, he understands it. He looks at a picture, and what happens? Isaiah 46, verse 8 to 9. He will remember the things that happened long ago. So when David went and David stood before Goliath, he had his staff. When he's looking at Goliath and he's saying, oh, I come in the name of my Lord and God. And then he's looking at his staff, and what is he doing? I'm remembering things of long ago. Lord, you were there with me when the wolf came. You were there with me when the lion came. You were there with me when the bear came. This is nothing, God. I know you're going to be here with me as I stand before Goliath. He looked at that staff and he remembered the things of long ago. Today, we do not walk around with staffs. We do not walk around with carvings. We have the word. We have books. We have phones. We can write down all our testimonies. It is good to have a book where you write down. That's what my husband and I do. Every time there's a testimony, every time there's a prophecy, every time there's something great that happens, we write it all down. We document it. We write down the facts. We have the pictures. Why? Because then we can remember of those things and we can declare the greatness of God over our lives. Can I remind you, can I just encourage you with this? Everything that happened many years ago that was a demonstration of God's faithfulness, a breakthrough, or a miracle is the constant proof that God is telling us, if I did it then, I can do it now. I'll repeat that again. Everything that happened in the past where you experienced a miracle, a breakthrough, or a victory in your life, it's God's way. When you remember that, it's God's way of giving you constant proof that if I did it then, I can still do it now. Because I am God and I am Lord over your life. Never forget what God has done. You know, when we read in the Gospels, we all know this event that is documented by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus feeding the 5,000. We know that. If you go back and you look at scriptures, read the passage on Jesus feeding the 5,000. Go on about 1 or 2 chapters later, and you will see another event where Jesus feeds the 4,000. But do you know what happened? When Jesus was feeding the 5,000, the disciples came to him and said, Jesus, how are we supposed to feed all these people? Send them back to the town. We don't have any money. It would take at least 6 months' salary or wages for us to feed all these people. But they themselves witnessed that miracle of Jesus multiplying the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. They saw it. 2 chapters later, they're in a situation with lesser people. From 5,000 went down to 4,000. And what do these disciples say? Lord, how are we supposed to feed these people? There are too many of them here. We don't have food enough. You know, when I read it, I'm like, duh. Do you need to go back 2 chapters later and know that Jesus just fed 5,000? Why is it none of the disciples went to Jesus? Oh, Jesus, there are 4,000 people here and they need food. Remember last week? You fed the 5,000. That was so cool. That was so awesome. I mean, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And that's only 5,000 men, not counting the women and children. Wow, God, if you did it, then I'm sure 4,000 is nothing for you. How is it that none of the disciples ever said that? Because they forgot about the thing that happened long ago. And mind you, it wasn't even very long ago. It was probably a week plus, maybe a month. I'm not sure of the timeline. But it happened recently. They forgot. Let's not be like these disciples. Let's not forget what God has done long ago and then look at a situation and go, oh no, Lord. No, we remember the things of long ago as a constant proof. If God did it then, He will still do it now for you. As we close, I want to encourage you. Even as this video comes to an end, don't just click stop and just go about your work. Click stop as this video ends and just sit for a moment, even if it is just 3 to 5 minutes. Take out a piece of paper and write down all the faithfulness of God, all the events that you saw in your life that was a demonstration of God's power. And you will remember miracles upon miracles, breakthroughs upon breakthroughs, and I pray that will stir up your faith. God bless you.